and most of the things that I said, I'd say were pretty accurate. Namely, the one talking about flight points being camped, and I'd say this is something that mostly Alliance players are experiencing. I have some friends at work and some friends in general that are playing on Horde side, and they have not been camped at flight points whatsoever. But as an Alliance player, my first experience coming into Phase 2 was dying at pretty much every single flight master that I landed at. So I mean, I'm an Alliance player, and I do understand where they're coming from. Personally, I don't really care. I just view it as, you know, it's an extra part of the game and I have to work around it. It's a bit crazy on my server. Like, Horde is quite dominant, but eventually, like, the Alliance works together and we end up fighting the Horde back. We just need to communicate and actually bring people out there.
I agree
we're not
with that.
Like baseline at every flight
I agree
point.
with that. Yeah.
So personally, it doesn't really bother me that much, but I do understand how it could really get on some people's nerves. And I tend to view the game from my perspective, which I'd say is more of like a hardcore perspective. And, you know, on this channel, I've tended in the past to not necessarily be so open when it comes to catering to casual players, but at the same time, I think that there has to be, you know, a middle ground. And I do understand that casual players are probably not super into this. And at the end of the day,
no,
if World of Warcraft,
I don't think most people are.
Not only do the hardcore players need to be satisfied and happy, but the casual players also need to be able to find their little spot within the ecosystem of Classic WoW. And right now, I feel as though that's not necessarily the case for a lot of people. Leveling alts on Alliance side has pretty much become borderline impossible. Not impossible, but just very difficult. You're constantly dying. Every time you land at a flight master, you might die a couple times just trying to like get away from the flight master. That's definitely a thing.
That's crazy.
So the experience has become really tough for some people to deal with. Now, it seems, I think this was pretty
ridiculous.
much expected as well. And let's say we do go into TBC, it's probably going to be the exact same thing. Most PvP players do tend to go on Horde side, whether that's a cultural thing where Alliance players just tend to not necessarily be too focused on PvP, and Horde players just happen to be the type of player to really be into, you know, world PvP, griefing, ganking, that type of stuff. I think that
it's
does
a bunch
play
of
part.
undead rogues
also play a part, but in general,
that's it.
On most servers,
undead
even
rogues.
if the faction balance
and
is
undead
quite
mages.
equal, there's just
few
not as
undead
much
priests.
participation in PvP
That's
on the Alliance side as there is on Horde side. I'd say once BGs and premades come along, that changes entirely because you're focusing specifically on Alliance players who actually want to PvP, and then you have paladins, which are pretty busted. So honestly, Alliance thrives in premades. But in the world PvP scenario, outside of really massive battles and just in a general small skirmishes across the entire map type deal, Alliance is definitely struggling right now. So this raises the question: if we think about the way that the phase release system has been set up within Classic WoW, it's emulating obviously what it was back in the day. And if you think about it, it's almost as if the early phases are essentially equating to an early time before vanilla was fully fleshed out. There's a couple reasons why world PvP was not necessarily killed, but was kind of dimmed the moment Blizzard implemented BGs. And I mentioned this in one of my other videos where that was done purposely. Not only because lag is a massive issue, this is still a massive issue on big servers.
Because like 90% of the world PvP encounters fucking suck. Oh, we went up there and we fucking beat them 10v1. Or, oh man, I got killed 10v1. It's like, yeah, most of them suck. I mean, that's why they got rid of it.
But like once the fight gets to like 120 plus people, it becomes borderline unplayable.
Yeah.
Once BGs release,
borderline
they solve
unplayable.
all of the issues.
More
when it
like
comes
unplayable.
To, out of world griefing, lag, and pretty much every issue that you can think of when it comes to world PvP. BGs sort of solve in terms of the actual feel of the
Jesus
world around
Christ,
you.
It must be nice
doesn't
to be a hunter.
entirely kill world PvP. It's
Holy
still a thing,
fuck.
and it always will be a thing. But to the level that it is right now, where certain people are just unable to play the game. Yeah, that's definitely not a thing once BGs come out. And as I was just stating earlier, it does level the playing field for Alliance in respect to Horde players, specifically because
we get BG queues.
if you're premating, you're able to, you know, pool a really strong player, 10-player group, whether you're on Alliance or Horde. So
Yeah,
if you
that's
can
very
find the
true.
right teammates, you'll compete with Horde, and you might even have an advantage considering that we have Paladins, like I just mentioned. And
Paladins
the
are
other thing
better
is that
than
we get pretty much
shamans.
instant queues.
They're
So on
just
Horde's
better.
side, there's so many different
Period.
people queuing for PvP constantly.
Shamans
they have
suck.
bigger populations, and I'd say they have bigger populations of players that actually want to
No, they're
PvP
better.
in general. And on
No,
the
they're
Alliance
better.
side, it's obviously just
100% they're
less
better.
people, so you're always able to get queues. So right now in phase 2, Alliance people might be crying, but in the next couple of months, it's gonna get, you're gonna be happy.
Okay, all right. Everybody's like, no, not true. No, it's not. Oh yeah, of course. Being able to give somebody fucking immunity to physical damage, and be able to just make yourself immune so you can just spam heals, and they can't do a fucking thing about it for 8 seconds. Oh yeah, that's not overpowered at all.
That you rolled Alliance. So really the question is, does Blizzard bend over to the people that are discontent right now with the current state of phase 2 and push out phase 3, or at least push out BGs before Blackwing Lair, or do they ignore those cries and give a couple months here of brutal Horde domination on pretty much every single server? Alliance players have to suck it up and then just wait for the next phase.
They're gonna quit.
From my perspective, I would say suck it up as an Alliance player, and honestly, even if you want to take a break from the game, take a break from the game.
Yeah,
and
they'll
once
quit,
phase
man.
3 comes around, it's going to be a completely different standard of living for you. But at the same time, I think this was something that really I was worried about. All right, so
Yeah.
when it comes to vanilla, I was obviously probably one of the biggest advocates for Classic WoW, and I still am, obviously. But you've probably heard me mention many times that I think the Burning Crusade is probably the best World of Warcraft experience outside of the social dynamic, outside of the world battling dynamic. Like, there's specific elements that are missing, I'd say, in TBC, but as an overall experience, especially for everybody,
TBC is really
I'd say the
good.
Burning
Let's be
Crusade
real.
is probably the best World of Warcraft experience in my humble opinion.
Okay.
And I knew that vanilla was going to appeal to a specific player, absolutely, and I am one of those players. But I did also know that on the other side that it would deter some people, and it might be its own worst enemy in a certain way, where some people sort of give up on it, where they're just like, this is too tedious, like 30 freaking Dreamfoil for a flask and a Black Lotus, like screw this game, with the world PvP element, the leveling elements, like there's specific little things in Classic that just appeal to one type of player and almost neglect another. Now, I've also made videos in the past talking about how Classic is casual friendly, and I still do believe that, although I'd say less so now in phase 2, considering that the entire world is a war zone. But the Burning Crusade, I say, is the best element of that. And basically what I'm getting at here is that I think phase 3 is probably a little bit closer to that TBC style experience, just for the fact that there's more things to do at endgame with the introduction of BGs. I know the sentiment is that maybe Blizzard's blasting through these phases a little bit too fast, and I think if we were to just speed through phase 2 and go right into phase 3 once again, just skipping, or maybe then bringing in phase 2.5, right, where they bring in BGs, is that going to make people even more angry in respect to this notion? Like, is it the right decision? Is it going to hurt the Horde players who are having an absolute blast right now? Is it going to hurt the hardcore players who think, well, if you can't take it, then go find another game or stop crying, blah blah blah. There's always a different perspective, right? Or is it the right business decision for the longevity and the health of the game to sort of find a middle ground so that everyone can actually enjoy the game? Because if you think about it, like, I think even...
How long do you guys think the Horde BG queues are going to be? How long do you guys think they're going to be? 30 minutes, 2 hours. If it's 1 hour, I think that'd be fucking hilarious.
If you're the most hardcore player, having BGs is not necessarily a bad thing. And the one issue that I have right now with World PvP is that it's not so much like it was in previous experiences. It's so focused on like massive groups where it doesn't really play out
because
like
there's so many people on the server.
When BGs
Yeah,
are a thing,
of course.
there's less people out in the open world PvPing, and the world PvP that you experience is more like 2v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, 1v1s. It's more of like a controlled environment.
Mostly the 2v1s, though.
Skill is actually, you know, an important factor, where right now it's just these massive like clusters of either 40 versus 40, or it's like you land at a flight point, or you turn around a corner and there's just like 15 horde that just, you know, immediately fill up your biological cavities, let's say. You know, so yeah, basically you get what I'm saying, where I feel as though having BGs definitely creates a nice balance, where you have the option to BG if you want a hardcore rank, if you want a pre-made, BGs are always there for you. And then the world PvP element is, I'd say, a lot more enjoyable when BGs are taking all of those players out of the world. I definitely see the perspective that adding BGs right now might actually be the best path forward for the game, and I think that would most likely appeal to most people as well, whether you're a world PvP or not. And I'm literally saying this because, not because necessarily it bothers me and that I'm gonna quit the game, but I don't want other people to quit the game. I want people to keep enjoying Classic. I want them to be there for phase 1 to phase 6. And I don't want, because we're sticking so hard to no changes and to the phase releases that were initially planned,
you alienate other people. Yeah, of course.
A certain type of player who should also be enjoying the game as well, without obviously diluting the experience, because I really don't think that would really dilute the Classic experience. So I could definitely see that as a nice path forward for the game. I don't think that it'd be too detrimental. In fact, I think it might have an opposite effect. I think it might actually be the right decision.
Hopefully everybody's logged in.
That's gonna be Blizzard's decision to make, obviously. And another thing that I want to say is this add-on spy that people are using that's really hurting rogues. Blizzard needs to fix this. I mean,
I would agree if it hurt anybody else besides rogues, but unfortunately Blizzard did fix it.
I haven't downloaded it, but I've been reading forum posts.
Yeah, I don't use the add-on either.
People talking about it.
I use it like twice.
This add-on spy, where it basically scans your vicinity and tells you apparently if a rogue is near you, even in stealth. Maybe I have that wrong. Let me know in the comment section. That's like super unhealthy for the world PvP dynamic, and that's obviously every rogue player is hurting on the inside with this add-on. So
no, they're not. They're disgusting, and they have no soul, so they can't feel anything.
For group add-on, I think maybe they should be looking into this one and potentially taking it out.
That's just simply not true.
I don't see that as a net benefit to the game whatsoever. In fact, it seems like a heavy detriment. And also, Epstein didn't kill himself. So if you guys like this video and you want to see more like it, of course, if you like the monologue style videos, then, you know, leave a comment, leave a like, potentially hit the subscribe button if you want to support me, and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys on this one. And you know, maybe you heavily disagree with me. That's fine. Go ahead and leave it in the comment section, and let's see where everybody stands. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
All right. Guys, it's time. Four-minute queue. You guys have enough time. It's time for the meeting. Let me ride over there first, and everybody else get in Discord. We're gonna have an emergency guild meeting. Okay, test. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. I'll give everybody just a minute or two more, and then we're going to begin. Start at 60-40, and then it's going to be 65-45, 35. Then it's going to be 70-30, then 75-25, then 80-20, and then you know what? The server's fun. Many of these people will quit. But imagine what happens whenever BWL